So this week we are finally doing sound, which is one of my favorite topics to talk about in regards to video and video editing and video analysis. It is a lot easier than editing, which many of you struggled with recognizing the editing terms on your most recent assignment in Moodle. So do make sure you review those terms. So when it comes to sound, and here's the Yale webpage. Again, don't forget to read through this and to click on these little icons in order to see the examples that are provided for you. I'm going to be going over some of the terms, some of the more common terms, and explaining them so that you get some additional information to these to this webpage where the definitions are provided. But it is really crucial that you go through and read these carefully and look at the examples because it's only with repeated exposure to information that you really start to master it. And so do this, go through this page first. You might want to pause this video now, read through it, and then listen to my video narrative because I'm going to be giving you additional examples to help you to understand what you've read here. So if you do this first, what I say next will make a lot more sense. So hit pause now, read through the sound page. It's pretty short. And then when you're finished with that, hit play again, and I will give you some examples from the Guild. Now, this season of the Guild is one of my favorites. It starts out slow, but then really it's just so much happens. There's the new expansion that the team is working on. They're trying to build a custom guild. Codex is sleeping with Fox. Her computer breaks, which of course is just terrible. Codex gets a job. There's a hilarious Cheesy Bear video that if you guys haven't seen it yet, you just have to just wait. You're going to love it. Zabu's mom shows up. Vork gets, engaged. There's the festival under the sea. Zabu's ex-girlfriend gets her own girlfriend. Blade becomes internet famous. There's an in-game wedding. And then, there's an exciting revelation at the end of the season that sets up season 5. So enjoy this season because it is a lot of fun. Now, what I want to do first, I'm going to be pausing. I'm going to be showing this video and then pausing intermittently just so that you can get an idea of each one of the terms. First, I want to talk about diegetic. Basically, in sound, there's a lot of emphasis on whether sound is diegetic or non-diegetic. And basically what diegetic means is something that is heard or seen or experienced within the film world. So if the characters can see an object, that's diegetic. If they can't see an object, that's non-diegetic. If the characters can hear a sound, that's diegetic. If they cannot hear a sound, even though we can hear the sound, that's non-diegetic. So sound, diegetic versus non-diegetic sound becomes very important. In other words, can the characters hear it or not? So I'm going to be showing you some examples. First, diegetic sound, okay? This is what we're going to be watching here in just a second is Codex speaking, and she can hear herself talk, right? We can hear her talk, she can hear herself talk. That is diegetic sound. Then the theme song is going to come on. And so when the theme song comes on, that obviously is non-diegetic sound because Codex cannot hear it. So here I'm going to advance just a little bit. So again, we're going to have about 6 seconds of Codex talking, diegetic sound, and then the theme song is going to start. That is non-diegetic sound. We can hear it, we can see it, she cannot.
Better do it. Just get it done. Yes!
Now, we don't have to watch the entire scene because, obviously, we're just paying attention to the sound for this particular video. And you've now seen an example of diegetic sound and non-diegetic sound. I'm going to show you some more examples of that as we go forward. Another thing that sound really does that's important is it sets up the scene and gives us indications of what the character's emotions are or what the tension is supposed to be within the scene. Is it supposed to be lighthearted tension? Is it supposed to be ominous tension? Is it supposed to be, terrifying tension. And I like this particular example I'm going to show you here in just a second, which is of Zabu's mom's ringtone. And when his phone goes off, we can tell right away, even if you've never seen the show before, even if you don't know anything about Zabu's mom, that the sound that's associated with her tells us something about her character, okay? So again, I'm going to maximize this and listen for the ringtone.
Why is she calling? Why now? She's been called in weeks, dude. Don't call. Don't call. Stop.
You done now?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, so the sound of basically a fire alarm, having that fire alarm ringtone for your mom tells us how Zabu feels about his mom. Diegetically, he can hear the ringtone. We can hear the ringtone. And it also tells us that his mom is a scary person, or at least he perceives her as being a scary person. What's interesting about this series, and again, another reason why I like to use this series for this particular class, is that the annotations tell us a lot about the decisions the producers, the directors, and the writers made when including certain things in the script. And the annotation that goes up along the bottom of the screen is a non-diegetic annotation. The characters cannot see the annotation, but we can read that Felicia Day, the character or the actress who plays Codex, she actually has that ringtone for her, I believe it's her mother, as well. So it tells us how she feels about her mom. A little bit of insight into Felicia Day's real life. Okay? So now I'm going to show you an example of post-production dubbing. Basically what post-production dubbing means is that after the film crew finishes, creating the footage by filming the characters, then the footage goes into editing. And editing is not, in addition to what we talked about for last week, where editing is where you cut together various parts of footage in order to create certain kinds of effects like match on action or point of view shots or jump cuts, things like that. It also includes adding sound. Now we talk about sound separately from editing, so we do need to make sure that we make those distinctions. What we're going to see here in post-production, so that means after they've produced the footage, they go in and they can add an overdub sound. Sometimes the sound is not synchronous. What I'm going to be showing you here is synchronous sound. And basically what synchronous sound means is that it's sound that's added later. It was not recorded while they were filming. It's sound that's added later in post-production, but matches the action on the screen. So we're going to hear a crackle and then we're going to hear an explosion. The crackle and the explosion are supposed to coincide with Codex's computer exploding. There's also some non-diegetic music that's supposed to help us understand the scene a little bit better. Again, non-diegetic music is music that Codex cannot hear in this particular example, whereas the crackle and the explosion are diegetic because she was able to hear them and she immediately reacts to them. You can often tell whether something is diegetic or non-diegetic if the character reacts to that sound. So here we go.
Guys, we are dating. We are in a relationship. So, if stuff happened, then it's private.
Not anymore.
I know he seemed like a jerk, but, he's different. We might be good together. I just want to see where this goes.
It's going nowhere. He's an anarchist. There's no way he's gonna date you.
That's not true. He left his jacket here.
He left something? Classic move. It's like when a dog pees on a fire hydrant. He's totally into you.
Codex, we're discussing building a guild hall. This is seriously distracting.
I was upfront about everything. Can I get props for that?
No.
Now who's judging me?
Okay, so you got a little bit of a teaser there. If you haven't watched this season yet, you can see that Codex is, in a conflict in her relationship. But We have here the crackle, the explosion, she responds to them, and then the non-diegetic music that is ominous, of course, and adds to the underlying theme that she's in a really bad position right now. She's in a bad relationship, and her computer has exploded, which to a gamer is, you know, pretty much the end of the world. Now, as with all things, sometimes you'll find some instances of examples that seem to kind of blur the edge. And this is going to be an example where we're going to see that. This is non-diegetic static that we're going to be hearing. And the reason why we know it's non-diegetic static is because the visual of Codex speaking into her webcam and not realizing that it's staticky shows us that she does not know about the problem with her computer that we know about, that her webcam is totally giving out on her again. So the visual contradicts what we see. We see the static, we see her visually going in and out, but Codex, the character, cannot see it. So it's diegetic in some ways in that the camera that she's using has obviously problems, right? But the static isn't going to occur until there's playback later or when somebody watches it who's not in this video. And so it is non-diegetic. It's what's happening currently on the inside of her computer, not what somebody within the narrative is experiencing. So here we're going to have some non-diegetic static. We can hear it. She cannot.
Good girl. The worst thing I've ever done is snip a permanent marker, but it was only 15 seconds tops, and the whole time I was screaming inside, "Stop! Cancer! Stop!" What did I misunderstand about that date? We got along great. That rhymes. With a little logic and a mild panic attack, I convinced Fox to meet me for a non-date deductible business meeting. I'm good.
Okay, so we have information that the character doesn't have here with this non-diegetic static that we can hear and that she cannot. Now, I'm going to now show you an example of diegetic static, okay? Okay, so now in this example, even the Felicia Day's character Codex still cannot see the static. It becomes diegetic because all the other characters are experiencing it within this scene, okay? So here's the example.
Your mic is messed up. You sound like a chipmunk.
I know, my computer's still not working. It barely loads. I just want to apologize. For lying to everybody, I don't know what.
You guys.
Don't yell at me.
You're not gonna.
That scene just cracks me up. It's where you can really see how editing comes together to help create a scene. Now, another example of sound that is one of my favorites is sound perspective. And this particular example I'm going to show you is sound perspective that was added in post-production. So it's synchronous dubbing. Okay? Now what you're going to see here, again, is an example of sound perspective. And what sound perspective does is that it gives you the impression that something is existing in a time and a place where it's either moving towards you or away from you or around you. It gives you a sense of the space in the area that's being filmed. So here you can tell this is post-production because what's going to happen is the owner of Cheesy Beers is going to put his arm around Codex, and his arm is going to make this incredible whooshing sound, which just simply is not physically possible. But they're trying to underscore that, you know, she's about ready to get hugged by a man with a foot in that, or a hook, and that this hook is dangerous not only to her but also to Zabu. And so you're going to hear the sound of the hook moving through the air. You know, it's moving through time and space. And is also dangerous. And you can tell this added in post-production because nobody's arm would make that sound. They were just doing this simple action. So here we go.
No worries. We can drop anchor for that.
Okay. So again, sound perspective makes you realize that something is moving through space. Now, we have just about run out of time on this video, so I'm going to stop here, and I have a couple more examples that I'm going to talk about in the next video.